The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Y'all ready for this?
Booyah! We are back. It is November 8th, the first November show for 2017, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which means it's time for another installment of Southern Nevada Sports News coming to you from WWDBTV.com. My name is Bill Miller, co-host along with
Jeff Belknap.
And as always, we welcome you to the Southern Nevada Sports News Show, where we cover sports in Southern Nevada in general, but more or less sports around the world.
Right.
Distant topics and translations, which means it's our own damn opinions.
And we'll do what we want.
That's right. That's how we roll around here. And we're going to get right to it. We are very fortunate to have with us a call-in guest who was actually on our show during the summer, leading up to high school. And this guy's and his team have a real niche for local high school football.
Yep.
And the name of the program is HSFB, High School Football for 702 HSFB
right.
podcast.
Yep.
And with us is Victor Tuadad. Victor, are you there, buddy? Victor?
Uh-oh.
Hello. Are you there?
Victor, you still with us? While we work on bringing them in. So we are through the regular season in high school.
Yep.
And now we're off to the playoffs.
Off to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that means it's the usual suspects.
Pretty much, yeah.
And, of course, the 500-pound gorilla in the room, none other as Bishop Gorman.
Yeah.
But so who are the, and hopefully we'll get Victor back online, but, this is an exciting time for high school football, for high school sports around the country. A lot of parts of the country, the playoffs have already started.
Right.
But then again, their school year starts a little earlier than it does here in Nevada.
Well, we started a little earlier this year as well, but we've already played a round of the playoffs, so we are through round one. With the championship coming up in a couple weeks, and Gorman's obviously the team to beat.
The team to beat. They usually are.
Yeah, but you're talking about I was watching Brevin Jordan, play last week, and this guy is just an absolute beast, man. Just watching these guys, and you got two guys passing the ball pass and catch to each other that are both potential NFL players. So what do you do with that?
So they'll be
how do you beat that?
So not only will they be playing on Saturdays, they'll probably be playing on Sundays as well.
Very, very possible. I'm watching the talent, and we're watching kids go through the high school levels here now, and watching them step up, man. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Victor, if you can hear us, we're having some technical difficulty here, and for everybody out there.
I can hear you now, Bill.
Oh, okay, there he is.
Okay.
Oh, fantastic, man. We are so glad. We were having improv here.
Thanks for having me.
So you can hear us, can't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, excellent. Listen, I don't know how much you've heard so far. We wanted to just kind of touch bases on it, but we really wanted you to, to let us know what is because it's playoff time in high school football.
It sure is. It's the best time of the season right now.
Absolutely, man. So what are you seeing out there in your crew as far as covering it?
Well, we've unfortunately with just the layout, a lot of the first round games that we had last week were pretty big blowouts with a couple of exceptions. Mojave and Chaparral had a very good game that we were at. Mojave ended up winning really in the last minute, and it was a really fun game to watch. And also Sunrise Mountain upset Moapa Valley at Moapa Valley 30-28. So those games are pretty close, but everything else pretty much was a blowout, unfortunately. So now in the second round, it's going to be a little bit more exciting for some games, and you're going to see a little bit more parity. And like we said last week to all the kids, is half the teams that are suiting up tonight will be turning in pads on Monday. So you got to leave it all out there.
Yeah, and the one thing about high school, football, and when it comes to the playoffs, and then of course at the end of the regular season is. I always feel for the seniors on the losing team because for a lot of them, that's not an option that they're going to be moving on and playing,
Is it.
collegiate sports or, and it really is the last time that they're going to suit up and the last time they're going to be under the lights. For some, they're fortunate enough to, to have a scholarship offer and able to move on. It's fantastic. But, I always feel for those seniors when it's that last game.
Yeah, that game at Mojave with Chaparral. Chaparral came back towards the end of the game and took the lead for the first time. And Mojave came back, and credit to them, and scored a game-winning touchdown with about a minute left. And your heart kind of sank for a lot of the seniors, like you said, on the Chaparral side that, had about 60 seconds to go and to move on, and then had their hearts ripped out with that loss. But, it's one of those things like I tell the kids, you never know. You never know when it's going to be your last game. Unfortunately, you could have an injury or whatever. So just enjoy the game and play it for the love and get everything out of it that you can while you're still playing. For those of you that are fortunate enough to move on to the next level, then, don't take this for granted. But for everybody else, it's definitely a bittersweet final 4 weeks that we have of the football season here.
So the matchups we got through round one. So what are the matchups coming up for this coming Friday? Well, actually, they're playing on Thursday, right, because of the holiday?
Yep, because of Veterans Day, they're going to have all the games on Thursday. So we have in the 4A, you've got 4 finalists in each, the Sunset and the Sunrise. You've got Faith Lutheran at Gorman, Legacy at Arbor View for the Sunset. And the winner of each of those games will play each other in the next round. And then on the Sunrise 4A, you've got Foothill at Liberty and Green Valley at Canyon Springs. Canyon Springs, got to give them credit. They blew out Basic, I believe it was 31-0 last week. Maybe 41-0, excuse me, and that was a statement. And then in the 3A, you've got Sunrise Mountain, who just had their first playoff win in school history last week against Malta Valley. They're playing the big boys, Desert Pines. And then Mojave is at Virgin Valley, which should be an interesting game. We've got 2 of the best running backs in town, Tylee Walker with Mojave, and then Jaden Perkins, who holds the single-game rushing record for the 3A. He got 356 yards the other week. They have a rematch. They played earlier this season, and Mojave won 26-0. But I get the feeling Virgin Valley, being at home and being a little more motivated because it's win or go home, is going to be ready for this one.
What was that? What was that number on those yards?
356 yards in one game.
Wow.
And the funny part is, 2 weeks earlier, Del Sol was playing Virgin Valley at Virgin Valley, and Tariq Flowers, a running back for Del Sol, broke the record at that point with 350 yards rushing in that game, only to have his record broken 2 weeks later by Virgin Valley's running back. So must be something in the water at Virgin Valley.
Something.
Oh, my.
That's great. So shout out to Gus McNair, a friend of ours.
Absolutely.
He coaches at Canyon Springs, and I mean, talk about a big turnaround, especially from the way that the last time that they played ended, which was with the police macing players and so
there's
some unfortunate notoriety.
Yeah.
No, it was good to see, obviously, a good clean game, but on the same side of token, the Northeast League in the 4A kind of, it's been down. Las Vegas, even though they took the number 2 seed, they're really down this year, and even them having home field advantage in the number 2 seed playing number 3 seed Foothill. Foothill beat them, I believe it was 45-14. So Canyon Springs was really the only hope for the Northeast, and not only did they win, but they blew Basic out. So I think they're ready for Green Valley this week.
Nice. That should be a good game too with your Green Valley. They got a good young quarterback over there, and the coaches.
Yeah, the Green Valley's got AJ Barilla, is one of the best quarterbacks in the city, in my opinion, and he can move. They've got Brown on the offensive line. They've got a good set of receivers, and it should be interesting. Canyon had a kind of a rough start to the season, playing some out-of-state games, but and then obviously being in that Northeast League, it's kind of hard to gauge how good they are because they're beating up on teams that are definitely not at their level. But I think they answered that question in the first round with that went over Basic. That left no doubt that they're definitely going to be in this game against Green Valley.
Oh, that's going to be great. So what game will you be at?
I'm going to be actually at that game for sure. That one is no offense to Virgin Valley or Mojave. That was my other one that I was thinking about going to. I was out at the Malta Valley for the Virgin Valley game, and it's definitely worth the drive to go out there. But I'm going to go watch Canyon Springs. I haven't seen them in person since their preseason scrimmage at Faith Lutheran. So I'll be out there, and Big Anthony co-host on the podcast. He's probably going to be out at Faith Lutheran and Gorman to see what Faith Lutheran looks like a little bit improved. They lost to Gorman last year, 58-10, but they had some positive signs. They had some good things. They got a solid quarterback, Dayton Gronauer, and with Faith Lutheran, one of the storylines there is Ma'a Gatiote, a freshman linebacker. His big brother is E.A. Gatiote for Bishop Gorman. Ma'a Gatiote, a freshman, just got a USC offer, which his brother is committed to. So that'll be an interesting little brother, big brother. And Faith is good. They've got 3 losses, but it was a close loss to Arborview, an overtime loss to Green Valley, and a very close loss in Colorado to Ballard Christian, who is 10-0 and the number 1 team in Colorado, heavy favorite to win their state championship again.
Oh, beautiful. That's great. This is the best time, really. I mean, we got the next 2 weeks. There's going to be some great football, and I think I might want to get out there. Canyon Springs. It's at Canyon Springs, correct?
That one's going to be at Canyon Springs. The other games, and not to discourage. I mean, obviously everybody's going to go out there and you got to play these games on the field. But Desert Pines hosting Sunrise Mountain. Desert Pines beating pretty handedly earlier in the season, and Liberty hosting Foothill. Liberty, obviously, the 7-time Sunrise champions, and they took care of Foothill pretty easily earlier in the season. The other one that might actually be a really good contest is Arborview hosting Legacy. Legacy dropped that game when they played in the regular season, but it was 28-14. Legacy's got a real good coach, John Isola. They've got a solid set of running backs, good defensive line, good offensive line, and I think that one might be more interesting. I wouldn't be shocked to see Arbor also have a statement win, but I think it's going to be a really good game between 2 just hard-nosed running teams. And in Arborview can throw. They're known as a running team, but they've got Logan down there and Bollinger, and he can throw the ball. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Absolutely. John Isola took us to the championship game.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. When Bill and I had a team. And Terry Tarver. Yeah, he was our coach, and then Terry Tarver was our defensive coach. So we're very familiar with those guys out of Legacy.
Yeah, John is a no-nonsense guy. He loves his players, and one of the things that always gets kind of lost in the shuffle with the Gorman and the Faith Lutherans and Arbor is Legacy kids, I believe, an average of 6 or 7 kids to college to play football, whether it be Division 1 or 2 or 3. They do a really good, consistent job and have done so for several years of getting kids prepared, athletically and academically to go on and take that opportunity at the next level. So any success for the Longhorns, I'm a big fan of theirs. And that Northwest League is just so brutal. I mean, you look at Faith and Legacy and Arbor and Shadow Ridge that didn't even make the playoffs, and they could beat half the teams in town. So it's a tough league.
Absolutely. They got a pretty good running back over there too.
Yeah, they do. They've got a couple. They've got Diego Stubbs over at Arborview, and the backup, who's a junior, Bubba Graham, is I think just as good. I believe he runs a 4.340.
Oh, wow.
And he's had his moments this year filling in for Stubbs, but I think next year he will be preseason one of the stars of the Valley. And unfortunately, we're in a time where we have so many good players, and hopefully a lot of them take those opportunities and get themselves an education at the next level, whether it be, like I said, Division 1, 2, or 3. We've had a couple of schools out here recruiting our kids locally. Division 3 school out of Wisconsin. Wisconsin River Falls, they've done awesome. They have about, I think, 9 kids from Las Vegas on the roster this year. And, it doesn't matter, like I said, it doesn't matter if you can use football to catapult you to have an opportunity you may not have otherwise had, then take it and run with it.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, Victor, do you folks follow the Northern Division for Nevada?
Absolutely. Anthony's not as big of a fan. He'll tell you that himself. He thanks to help on Northern Nevada, but I've been keeping an eye. And the Northern, obviously the 800-pound gorilla in the room, Gorman has taken care of the Northern champion, whether it's McQueen a few years back, 40-0 in the state championship, or Reed a couple of times, 72-35. So it really seems to not matter who comes from the North. If it's Gorman playing up, they take care of it. But the North has some really good teams this year. The Monty Ranch will beat Reed for the Northern Championship and dethroned 5-time champion Reed last year. They have a Notre Dame committed quarterback, Caden McNamara, who I got to see last year at the state semifinal against Liberty, and he is, as the kids say, he's the truth. And then surprisingly, Reed, whose head coach Ernie Allen left to Bishop Minot, but they kept a lot of their players, a lot of great talented players, Cameron Emerson being one of them. they played Reno, who has the number one linebacker in the state, actually, who's ranked higher than E.A. Gatiote, Brandon Cajo. And the Reno beat Reed earlier this season, I believe it was 39-0, which is a huge statement because now what happens is this week they've got the first round, which will be a lot like our first round, a lot of blowouts. But now Reed will have to play Damani in the second round as opposed to the Northern Championship, which those are two really good teams. And I think between DeMonte, Reed, and Reno, I think Reno might have made themselves the favorite with that blowout of Reed. But I think any of those three teams can play with the Arbor Views and the Legacies and the Green Valleys down here. I would even say maybe Reno could challenge Liberty. Liberty's a solid team, but as Liberty found out last year when they went up to play DeMonte Ranch, a much smaller team, that 484-mile trip makes a difference. You know, they won by 3, but it was a lot closer, I think, than even they had thought it would be.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on that Northern game, and I'll be up there in Reno December 2nd to see that state championship that'll be played at University of Nevada's Mackey Stadium. And we'll see that the NIA is voting on that 5A after the season, so this could potentially be the last North versus South championship game in football with the largest classification. If they vote the way the Northern athletic directors would like, it's going to end up being a 5A with all Southern Nevada schools. We'll have the top 10 or 12 teams in Southern Nevada, and that'll be the entire 5A division. No more North versus South for that one.
Unfortunately, I think that with the domination of Gorman overall, at some point, I think that these guys had to look at it and just try to figure out a way of getting the teams from the North, to hoist a championship of some kind.
Yeah, and I think that's what it changed to. Unfortunately, and I understand that side of the argument definitely, but I think what really happened is it really put the rest of the Nevada teams in a really bad spot because now you're taking the top 11 or 12 teams from Southern Nevada and throwing them in the 5A, so they still have to deal with the Gorman problem, if you want to call it that. In fact, we'll go with that one. I think Liberty is really the only school that looks forward to that game and try as hard as they might. We saw what happened last year at the state championship with that 84 to state victory. But what's going to happen now is you have the 4A is essentially going to become the default Northern champion because the top team in the North, top two teams in the North, the 13th, 14th, 15th best Southern Nevada team can't compete with the number one team in the North. You're taking the top 10 or 12 teams out of the equation, which means you're going to have, for the Southern teams that are staying and going up to the 5A, they still have to deal with Gorman every year, so there's no help for them.
Right.
And now the 4A just becomes the default Northern champion. I think it's an easy solution to a bigger problem. I would have preferred a couple of different things, an expanded state tournament, and obviously I think it would be a simple answer. If we had more than 3 large private schools in the state and we weren't geographically set up the way we are, it'd be real easy. Make a private school league. But you've got Bishop Minogue and Reno, and then 480 miles to the south you've got Faith and Gorman, and it's really hard to make a private league with 3 teams spread over 400 miles.
Yeah, unfortunately it's just I come from California, and you really don't have that sort of, for lack of a better phrase, fear factor between private programs and public schools, because you have very powerful public school programs both in the North and in the South, in the Central Valley, but again, it's just a sheer volume based on the size of the state, obviously. And I think it's the same with Utah and Arizona and kind of the surrounding states, but you're right. I think it was a knee-jerk reaction, and I think that if they put their heads together, but I think they have to work, both divisions have to work with each other, the North and the South, and sort of figure this thing out.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a better solution, and I'll tell you what's going to be interesting, guys. The NIA, as many people know, that's not lost in the background, is one of the main title sponsors of Station Casinos, obviously owned by the Fertitta brothers, Gorman alums, and Big Gorman Boosters, which, full disclosure, I'm also a Gorman alum. But, one of the schools of thought here is if they do that 5A division and they give that division only 10 teams and make them all league games, then you would say, cool, everybody in the 5A has 9 league games. You can't schedule an on-league game, so no more nationally, ranked opponents, no more big out-of-state games. So even though that takes some of those opportunities from, say, Liberty, who's done very well, traveling around the country and playing some of the top teams. Same thing with Faith Lutheran and Canyon. DP has done the same thing. But then it would force the hand of, okay, Gorman as a program, do you want to play for a city championship and you're only playing local school? Or do you want to go independent and continue your, you're playing a national schedule? And I think if they did that, it would really be a send a message. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think what they're going to do is do a 12 or 14 team league, do a 5-game league season, which will allow Gorman and everybody to play only, the best of the best from the city during league, and then still schedule their 4 or 5 out-of-state games, which, again, I don't think that really solves the problem for anybody except Northern Nevada.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the growth of the high schools in Clark County and Southern Nevada, I mean, unfortunately, it's kind of diluted the pool in terms of talent. I mean, you look in just in the area where I live in, I mean, my goodness gracious, Canyon Springs and Cheyenne are literally blocks away from each other on the same street.
Yeah.
And on a Friday night, I can stand out on my balcony and look around and scan and just see all of the high school lights in the immediate area.
Yep.
Arborview, Legacy, and Canyon Springs, Cheyenne. It's crazy. And you can literally be on one block, and then you may end up having to go to another high school, even though the school that's you're closest to is just not in your particular district.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously with the growth of the city, it's been a blessing for some things, and then detrimental for other things. Obviously, education being first and foremost, athletics being secondary. It's kind of a real nice first world problem to have. But and being honest, I've spoken with several of the coaches for Northern Nevada. Ernie Howren with Bishop Noak, formerly of Reed, as well as Sean Dupree, who used to coach at Bonanza and has been Damani Ranch's head coach for several years now. Both of them and Reed's coach all said they wanted to go to the 5A for their football programs. They want to continue to play Liberty and potentially play Arborview and even play Gorman, but they'd rather have that high level of competition. But down here we'll see, because it'll really depend on how they do it. If they go strictly, one of the good things that's going to happen with the 18-19 school year and season is that NIA will separate football and realign it separately. So I think schools like Desert Pines will go up to the 5A. They've had a great amount of success, and I think they've definitely outgrown the 3A and can and should play with the big boys. But then you have teams, like Sierra Vista, good up-and-coming program. Coach Foss over there at Sierra Vista, they've made the playoffs. So they would jump up to that 5A potentially, depending on how it shakes out, which, there's always going to be big fish. And I think we've seen that with Liberty, even with that big loss that Liberty took to Gorman. Look what they did this year. Their only loss is to American Heritage, which is the number 3 team in the country in most rankings. And, they destroyed Green Valley, which in most of our local polls was around the number 4 team in the city. And they put, I believe, 45 or 50 points on them. So there's definitely levels to this game here locally.
Absolutely. So if you ever talk to Coach Foss, can you tell him to stop the wing tee?
Listen, it's funny. We tend to give not just Sierra Vista, but Arborview a lot of grief for the running game, which I was very, very explicitly told that it's not the wing tee. It's a variation, but they've been passing it a lot more. And I'll tell you what, I've been surprised. I've gotten to see that their quarterback, Logan Bollinger, is a little brother of Big Bollinger that graduated last year, and he can throw the ball. He's a young kid. He's got some improving to do, but man, I'll tell you what, Arborview is going to be really good next year. And I know it's a little premature maybe to go on to next season, but Liberty obviously losing Kenyon Oblad, one of the best quarterbacks we'll ever have in the state. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. The 5A division, how that shakes out, and Arborview having a second-year starting quarterback, a solid running back, and obviously that line is never anything, but really good. So we'll see how it shakes out. But I'm really excited about these next few weeks as the season winds down. We've only got four weeks of football left, so got to enjoy every play.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. You come back the week of the championship. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely.
I sure hope so.
I would love to be on as long as you guys tolerate me.
Well, listen, Victor, again, thank you so much, man, for joining us. Really appreciate it. And what's the podcast name again, Victor?
It's the 702 High School Football Podcast. Our website, 702HSFB.com, or hit us up on Twitter, 702HSFB on Twitter.
All right. And, of course, to everybody out there, Thursday night this week, because of the holiday, Thursday night lights, get out there and support your local team, or just go out and enjoy some really good high school football.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much, Victor. You have a great one now.
Likewise.
Victor Tuadad, 702 HSFB, which is high school football. That's the podcast, and that's also the website.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to touch bases on the picks for the week from our prognosticator sitting here right here,
Hopefully
Jeff the Guru.
Last week.
We are Southern Nevada Sports News, coming to you from WWDBTV.com. We'll be right back.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. Today's tips on cooling systems. This vehicle's got about 182,000 miles on it, so if you're checking the coolant, check the hoses too. Just feel them and see if they're soft or any signs of fatigue for the mileage on it. They don't feel bad. They look like they're still the original hose, but you want to make sure you don't go too long with these hoses because they will eventually deteriorate, cause a problem. In this case, this car's got a visible leak. The customer brought it to us. We'll pop the hood and check the cooling system. First, we just relieve any pressure that might be on the cap. Remove the cap. Take a look inside. We see it's kind of low. Now we'll start our inspection. What we found on this one is the top tank is leaking. It's got a crack in it. Pretty common for these plastic radiators to do that. I want to get to a shop right away because severe engine damage can result from overheating condition like this. In this case, it was pretty easy to see the crack was right on the top tank, but a lot of times we'll have to pressurize the system to locate the exact leak. Could be a hose in the back, could be underneath. Some of these are hard to find, but in this case, a very common leak, the top tank. When we're testing a cooling system, it's okay to use just water, but you want to make sure when you're filling it up properly, it's a 50-50 mix of antifreeze and water. It needs the water to make the chemical work, so don't just put straight antifreeze. 50-50 mix is the best way to go. Keep it clean, keep it rust-free. So as you can see, we got a pretty active leak. You got to get this fixed, so there's going to be some engine problems. If you're going to top off your own coolant, it's really not that hard. If you got a radiator cap, just make sure it's not hot. Take the cap off and take a look. In this case, we're pretty full here, but what we have is the overflow jugs empty. So we'll just add that. Once again, check your manufacturer's specs to make sure what type of coolant you have. In this case, we're using the good old green. There's gold, there's red, there's yellow, all types out there. Just want to make sure you're staying with your manufacturer recommended coolant. And that's really all there is to it. The cooling system is a major component. You'll want to service that regularly. If you have a problem, it could be too late and cost you thousands of dollars. If ever you have a problem, come into Sun Valley Automotive. It's no charge to look at your cooling system. This is Crazy Terry with your car care tip of the day.
Booyah, we are back. And this time it is going to be the knockout round. First of all, I'd like to thank Victor Tuadad of 702 HSFB High School Football Podcast as he primed us for the upcoming playoff. This will be the second round. Thursday night lights this week, folks, because of the Monday Veterans Day holiday. So do get out, support your local high school team, or just go out and have some fun, watch some really exciting football.
Yep.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So, and this is our time of the show where our local prognosticator, Jeff, the guru himself, the rascal, will give us his picks for the week. And, or do you want to at least, well, there were certainly some surprises last week before we get into the picks.
Can I tell you my favorite one?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Other than Ohio State getting beat down?
Well, yeah, that's true. But last Friday, there was Florida Atlantic was playing Marshall. Marshall was they were about 10-point underdog. People were all over it, just steaming Marshall. Florida Atlantic, is a good team, home team playing. Obviously should have won that game pretty easily, but Marshall was getting all the action.
Mm-hmm.
So people are betting. I finally got on the game about plus 6.5. Okay, so basically it went from 10 to 6.5. I still felt like it was a good deal. I took it.
Right.
So, just a long story short, with literally no time on the clock, 2 seconds on the clock, Marshall's up by 7. The guy from Florida International, instead of punting the ball, he actually runs 25 yards through the end zone for a safety. They win the game by 5. Everyone that takes Marshall wins. So you think that that's the good part of the story, right?
Well,
Lane Kiffin actually gets on after the game and says, well, I guess we couldn't cover this game. And the funny thing is like everyone and their mother knew that what he did, but for him to actually come out and blatantly say it, it was the greatest ever, man. I'd never laughed so hysterically because I'm like dead in the water at that point. The only way I'm thinking, well, is there any way that I can win this game? And then when I see him catch the ball and start running the other direction, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I can honestly say that's the only time I ever won like that. But yeah, I mean, a couple of surprises and not so surprising. I mean, I think LSU played very well against Alabama.
Yes.
Stayed in that game most of that game. I don't know that Mississippi State's going to be that lucky this week. I think that Alabama -7, 7.5, whatever the first half action is going to be a pretty good play. I think Alabama's still got a chip on their shoulder from losing that 1 seed.
I think they're going to take it out on Mississippi State. I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah.
I think it's going to get ugly, and it's going to get ugly fast.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's one of the games that I'm on. One of the other, like, heartbreakers for me was Notre Dame. I took Notre Dame in the first half. Mm-hmm. I did well on that one, but I also took them for the whole game. I bet it a little bit early.
Yeah.
So I got it 13.5.
Right.
They're kind of going back and forth, and Notre Dame wins the first half easily. They gave up a touchdown with 51 seconds left. Win by 11. Everyone loses. It was one of the heartbreak hotel, plays from last week. The shootout in
Oklahoma.
Oh my goodness.
In Stillwater.
The funny thing was, my buddy asked me. He said, "Well, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, 76 seems a little bit high." They literally had 76 in the first half.
First half, yeah.
Tied at 38.
Did they get to 1,000 yards total offense in that game?
Well, I think the quarterbacks had 1,000 yards passing.
Wow.
So it was over 1,000 yards for sure with the rush. That's one of the plays I like this week. I like Oklahoma. I actually took them early on in the season to win it all, and then they took the loss. So it was a little bit like felt like I was out. Now it's seeming like one-loss teams could possibly get in this tournament at the end. So I'm going to take Oklahoma -6.5 against TCU. I think that's a good play.
Yeah, I think a one-loss team from the Big 12. I don't think a one-loss team from the Pac-12 will get in.
No, that's going to be tough. The Pac-12 is basically crabbed themselves out of.
Well, they are. They're like crabs in a barrel. Yeah. I mean, they just feed off of each other.
Right.
And I do see a possibility of Stanford knocking off Washington this weekend.
Yep.
I mean, that's my Pac-12 upset pick. Stanford's at home. They haven't had a great year, but they haven't had a disastrous year either, like some other teams.
Yeah.
And I think that and I think it'll just put Washington once again out of reach of any possibility. They would have to be undefeated to represent the Pac-12.
Absolutely. And talking about teams that could have possibly been there, but might not anymore. Penn State.
Yes.
They took a tough loss against Ohio State the week prior. They come in a 4 or 5 hour rain delay or lightning delay. Up 14-7. I had them in the first half -6.5. I'm thinking, okay, if we can just end like this, it'd be great. Michigan State scores a touchdown, ties it at 14. And if you're catching a trend of me saying that I lost last week. It was a very bad week for me. Probably the worst week. Definitely the worst week that I've had this year. But I'm going to snap back because you can't keep me down. But that game should be a really interesting game this week. Actually, 2 interesting games with Ohio State playing Michigan State this week. That's
right.
The 12 and 13 team. Michigan State jumping up 12 spots from 24 to 12 with their win against Penn State was a little bit shocking to me. Then you have Wisconsin that's got a tough game, trying to stay undefeated. These they face off against Michigan coming up. We're going to see how that game goes. Michigan playing Maryland this week. They should win that game easily, but
stranger things have happened.
Yeah, Harbaugh has a way to try to lose games. So a couple other games I like. I like Temple -3 against Cincy. Temple beat Navy last week, which was a little bit shocker. It was a game that I didn't do well on. You notice I'm saying that I didn't do well. I'm actually admitting the fact that I had a horrible week last week, but I'm going to snap back. Northwestern at home against Purdue. Purdue's just a very poor team. Northwestern -4, I think, should be a good play. And then to round out my my picks, I'm going to take Virginia Tech -3.
Over Tech?
Yes.
In the battle of the
Georgia
Techs.
Tech. The one thing about Georgia Tech is they have a very high against the spread record this year. Even though their record doesn't reflect it, they have covered a lot. So it's kind of a risky play, but I think Virginia Tech's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Then probably, arguably, the game of the weekend, Notre Dame and Miami.
Absolutely.
I mean, how do you feel about that game?
You know, the last time that this was a relevant game, I'm not kidding, it had to be maybe 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Kind of looking back. And I'm honestly excited about it. I think Miami has kind of been that undefeated team that nobody really believes is.
Waiting for them to lose.
Waiting for them. Just week after week after week, you expect them to lose. And they haven't. This is a huge opportunity to them. I think the place is going to be rocking. It's going to be absolutely packed. It's a primetime game, too. And I think that if Miami can beat Notre Dame, they truly make a statement. And they rightfully should probably be invited to the dance. This is a very good Notre Dame team. Listen, I'm not a Notre Dame hater, but Notre Dame typically has always, seemed to got their rankings because people just like Notre Dame. Right. They still think Knute Rockne is the coach. And even at 5-5 or 6-4, they've always managed to somehow be ranked in the top 30. This is actually a very good Notre Dame team. Yeah. So if they can, beat, they can't afford to even have this game close with Miami. Yeah. Unfortunately, they need to beat Miami. If it's really, really close, then Miami becomes a contender, and obviously if Miami beats Notre Dame, they truly are.
Yeah. Well, I think if Notre Dame wins this game, it's going to be done with their offensive line.
Just absolute monsters.
Yeah, they've been playing really well. I mean, if Miami can actually compete on the line, it's going to be a very good game.
This Notre Dame, and I was talking to our good buddy Jorge earlier.
How's he doing, by the way?
By the way, George is doing very well. He's back at home, and he is really awesome. Doing well. And George, if you're watching, buddy, we're so glad that you're back home.
Absolutely.
We were talking today, and one of the things he brought up was this offensive line for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And the fact that he figured that, if not all of these guys, 6 of them are going to somehow end up be playing on Sundays.
Yeah, that's good.
It's that good of offensive line. And it's certainly a reflection of Notre Dame's offense this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will give it to them. Notre Dame has earned their ranking. It's a very good team, but we'll see. I think that's probably the marquee game this week.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I have it actually square, but you notice I don't have a side.
Yeah.
I don't
Willing to. Yeah. So you're going to go with AS, all square, huh?
All square?
All square. Okay.
But there was 2 other games that I just wanted to touch on.
Go ahead, man. Yeah.
The Fresno game, on paper, looks like it should be a blowout. Hawaii actually played pretty well against UNLV and actually had a couple opportunities to win last week. I think that's kind of a bad gauge, but considering Fresno was beat by UNLV,
yeah. Do you really?
Do you really want to lay 10 points in that game? Yeah. I'll probably do something on it, but I just can't figure out what exactly. Then arguably one of the bigger games that happens at the Silver Bowl is UNLV and BYU.
Yeah.
BYU is going to bring the fans.
It'll be a BYU. Unfortunately, it's going to be a BYU home game.
Yes.
UNLV fans have just not supported this team this year.
Yeah.
And they're only averaging about 20,000 a game.
Oof.
And even for the opening game against Howard that I was at, I think at best they had about maybe 18,000. So, and then it was, beastly hot. You kind of see that. But the temperature has changed, but this is actually a UNLV team that's getting better and better each week. So I'm really hoping that they do come out and support, the team. But this is a huge game for UNLV. At 4-5, they can be 500, and this is a team. I hate to say this, unfortunately, they certainly should be favored over if they're not, and they should beat them.
Yeah,
and they should beat them handedly.
You would think. I mean, UNLV is laying 4. You would think.
That's it.
That they would win this game. The issue that I could possibly see in this game is the fact that BYU has played better quality opponents.
Yeah.
Which might bode well in a game like this, where it seems to be a mismatch.
They just have seen better teams.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The one thing I never could really figure out is why you would play a 4:30 game when you know it's going to be cold and probably windy, and it's going to be dark because it gets dark now at 5 o'clock.
Well, they actually have it at 7:30 now.
7:30 Eastern, though, right? Or is it
No,
7:30
7:30 Pacific time.
So that's even worse.
Which means it's going to be come on, it's cold. All right, relevance of cold here. Okay, it's going to be in the 50s.
Okay,
yeah.
But who's going to go sit out there that lives in Las Vegas when it's 50?
Every Brigham Young alumni
right.
within
that's
500 miles.
You're not going to get anyone from UNLV out there. Why don't you have this game at 1 o'clock?
Okay, they don't go out when it's hot. Now they don't go out when it's cold. Guys, we can't.
Look, I saw some kids.
This isn't San Diego.
I saw some
It's
kids
not 70 degrees all
this
year
morning
round.
in parkas.
You're kidding.
And I was like, it's literally 64 degrees. It was 64 degrees. I looked at the kids. I looked over. It said 64 degrees on my thermostat. I couldn't believe it.
Okay, I used to have a theory. It's new, and they were waiting for it to just get under 70 so they can put it on.
Yeah. Might be cold. Let me go ahead and wear it.
And and the UGG boots to go along with it.
Oh boy.
All right. Other Mountain West conference games. You already touched bases on the Fresno, Hawaii. How about the Wyoming Air Force?
You know what? Those were the only two games I even looked at. I mean, the rest of the conference is shaping up to be where we're not going to see too many these teams on bowl games.
Bowl games, yeah.
So, I guess like anyone can make it. All you got to do is make 6 wins. By the way, Florida State actually rescheduled their game against Louisiana Monroe,
right?
Just so they could be bowl eligible.
Wow. Let's see who's kind of leading right now. I guess it's Boise State at 7-2.
They should run away.
They absolutely should get a bowl game.
They will, and San Diego State will.
But Fresno's at 6-3 now. They'll probably presumably be 7-3 after the game against Hawaii.
I'm thinking so. Yeah.
That's a bowl eligible team.
Yep. Anything over 6. So.
Yeah. I mean,
UNLV really needs to win out in order.
They have no choice. They've got to. If they, I'm not saying if they lose against BYU, that's it.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, I think it's going to, the Review Journal is not going to be very kind.
Right.
And because they kind of had that run, but they've always had the games that they were well ahead of, should have won, and then just let slip away. And of course the debacle with Howard didn't help. Didn't certainly get things off to
That's a good word for
a shiny start. But I will also like to say, since I've got a couple of minutes here, hats off to my cousin Justin Dooley. Mm-hmm. He was the special teams player of the week last week for Howard.
Beautiful.
And they beat Florida A&M. They are, I think, 6-3.
Nice.
And so they'll be headed, I think, to the playoffs, the MEAC playoffs, and possibly an opportunity for a bowl game.
Okay, so hold on. So if they win the FBS or FCS, that means at UNLV that could actually give them some cred.
That's right, because it's not like they
didn't lose to a garbage FCS team.
They lost to a team that has really, the program's turned around completely since last year, and he's really having a good time, and he's really maturing for a true freshman. He's settled in nicely on campus. His mom certainly feels a lot more comfortable now. He's a lot more comfortable. He was really homesick. But he's settling nicely, and to be named the special teams player of the week. That's
great. Yeah. No, so that's for the league or the?
No, that's
conference?
For the Howard team itself.
The Howard team, okay.
Yeah,
right,
not for the conference, but he's and again, hats off to the Howard team. They're doing very well. Yeah,
that's good to see. Excellent. So, do you want to do any NFL?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't, but.
Well, I tell you what. Let's at least. Let's talk any marquee games. Any.
Well, I mean, we can talk about Detroit and what they should do to Cleveland.
By the way, congratulations on a double-digit win in Lambeau.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time, man.
Do you want to hear that one of the games I actually won, and it was really a shady win, obviously, but I had 2 tickets. I bet a 2-team parlay. I took them minus the points.
Yeah.
And then I took the over.
Yeah.
And they scored a touchdown with no time remaining.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the game went over. So I was a little lucky on that one. But I also took him minus 7.5 plus 210. So I kind of gave him a couple extra points, but I was able to get plus 210.
Right.
I just kind of felt like that they were going to be able to do a little bit what they did. Their defensive played pretty good. a couple garbage touchdowns at the end of the game. But the fact that they didn't punt. It's the first time that they didn't punt since 1971.
Wow.
Yeah,
well,
so that's a pretty long-standing record. And
one of the there's absolutely some pretty really tough games. And let's just go right to it. Giants at San Francisco combined 1-16.
Oh, geez.
Let that sink in for a minute. This is the New York Giants and San Francisco. This used to be every year an absolute bloodbath if they played each other, just simply based on the talent and the legacy of each of these franchises. This is what it's been reduced to.
Well, the one thing that I thought was ironic is they did a trade so they could get Garoppolo, and now they're saying that he might not play this year. And I'm thinking to myself, you have one win. What exactly are you holding out for?
Well, no, this is San Francisco still has no wins.
Well, they have no wins.
None. No, the one win belongs to the Giants.
The Giants. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so okay, even worse. You got 0 wins. That shows
really?
You how much I even pay attention.
Exactly. What is it that you're or have you already? Or is this the Baker Mayfield Derby?
Right.
Is that pretty much it?
How does this work out if you're Bobby Hoyer? Okay, so you're Bobby Hoyer, you're San Francisco 49ers quarterback.
Right.
You get cut, you get dropped back, and you have somebody else start in front of you.
Right.
They trade for a quarterback.
Yes.
They get draft picks for the quarterback, and then Bobby Hoyer gets cut and then picked up by the Patriots.
Yeah.
I mean, can you ask for any better situation for a Michigan State quarterback?
For him, it must be like Christmas, just like winning the lottery. It's like you wake up one morning, it's like, no, this can't be real. It's just
I went from like having no chance to maybe I might get a ring this year.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, certainly the odds are with you. Well, this is frightening, And I don't listen. The way the Rams have been playing, it's clearly the only difference between this year and last year is Jeff Fisher,
yes,
or lack thereof.
Right.
But they completely. I mean, I don't want to say a team gave up, but the Giants, if anything, it was about their defense this year. The offense would come along. They had OBJ. They got receivers. They'll make things happen. But the defense would keep them in every game.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were out of this game at halftime. This game was over.
Well, I can tell you.
They were one scenario real quick, 3rd and 34. They threw a screen pass, and the guy ran for 70 yards for a touchdown. This isn't semi-pro ball. This is something you usually see over here at Ed Fountain. 3rd and 34, he throws a little screen pass, and the guy ran for 70 yards for a touchdown.
That's so great. I might have to look that up. Did you see the play of the week, arguably, the Chiefs play, Tyreek Hill, where the Dallas players went all the way back to the end zone?
Yes.
Left a good 30, 40 yards of field.
Oh, yeah.
He just pops a little 15-yard pass, and he's literally just jogging.
I'll just run till the clock's out, and hang on, maybe let me see how I can score. What? I might be able to score.
How embarrassing.
The look on Jerry Jones' face was priceless.
Yeah, the guy that threw his helmet, man, he was definitely well in his way.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other game that so back to the Giants game just real quick.
Mm-hmm.
They got me this week too.
Okay.
Because I thought coming off their bye week that they would actually be in a position
to do something.
If you're going to put your team back together, a bye week's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Coming back in 5, I'm thinking, man, I might even take them on the money line. They might win this game.
And this is a West Coast team, early game on the East Coast, but the Rams have now won 5 in a row, road games, if you include the one in England, which was actually technically a home game for them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I would have thought that this is an opportunity for the Giants to kind of get back in the swing of things. They've had a chance. The interview with Bob McAdoo, afterwards, he says, "What did you tell your team at halftime?" And that was it. You can't make this stuff up, folks.
What can you say?
Really, I mean, make something up on the fly. This isn't was this his first interview ever? As a head coach?
The funny thing is I got a really good buddy, and he's a Giants fan, and I said, hey, your defense is trash. So he proceeded to tell me why it's the offense's fault. that this is happening.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, you gave up 51 points.
Well, there's
there is like a little bit to be said there, like not being on the field and all the positioning and everything. 51.
There's another kind of large giant fan that we know, ex-station owner.
Yep.
Yeah, he's out there now, and he's just hating life. Yeah.
Well, they get a couple Super Bowls.
That's the way the ball bounces.
They can be like the rest of New York fans and talk about the.
But is this the end of the Eli Manning era? I mean, is it a possibility you see him getting benched?
Well, I think that there's a couple good quarterbacks.
Who the hell is his backup?
Coming out? I don't even have any idea.
Yeah.
I don't think they can bench him.
He's never really been a guy that's gotten hurt. I think he has like current. Does he hold like the current streak for?
It's got to be up there.
Yeah. So I mean, I have no idea who his backup is.
Yeah.
And God only knows the last time there was garbage time where they brought in somebody because they were up by 30 or 40.
Okay, so we got a couple more good games this week. Cowboys play Atlanta.
Yep.
Atlanta laying 3 in the Mercedes Dome.
What Atlanta team's going to show up?
Yeah, we don't even have any idea. And then the Rams, 6-2 Rams playing at home against the Texans without a quarterback.
Yeah, I'm going to put my money on the Rams right now. I think they're red hot.
Yeah.
I think Goff is about as confident as you can get. I mean, he and Wentz. Remember last year? I mean, at the beginning of the year, everything was Wentz. They were sizing this guy up for his coat at Canton.
Yeah.
And Goff, all the guys hadn't played, and then when he finally did play, he was just fighting for his life. And then, of course, Wentz started to kind of slow down a bit. Now both are playing football for second-year players.
Yep.
And I only wish that, and also Dak Prescott, let's not leave him out of that second-year equation as well. But I think Goff is playing extremely confident.
Yep.
And I see them picking up another win. And, and unfortunately, Seattle's in Arizona. And despite how bad Arizona has been kind of playing, unless they're playing San Francisco, they really kind of have played Seattle tough at times.
Yeah.
And I think that, this is not a really good Seattle team. I think that, you never just know. That game they really had won against Washington last week, and they let Washington come back. Did you have anything on that one, by the way? Yeah, I think you did. Yeah. And he admitted it wasn't a great week.
It was a really bad week. If you don't believe it, go to our Twitter. Go to my Twitter, The Real Belko. I got hammered.
Well, listen, man.
I'll come back. I will.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen. You're a fighter, Jeff. You don't give up. And you actually put real money on these things. I can pick.
Sometimes I wish
but
that
I'm not
I
putting
gave
any
up.
money on it.
Sometimes I wish I gave up. So I will tell you guys this: that it got so bad that I put it on a. This is how bad it was. I put a $20 4-teamer down just to get it together to recover.
Right.
I took a screenshot of it. Later on, I checked the scores, and I was like, yes, at least I hit that 4-teamer. I forgot to hit the bet button.
Yeah.
That summed up my whole weekend because I was like arguing. I'm like, what the F? And then when I looked at it, I noticed that it was before I took it. So what I did is I screenshot it, closed the app, and I actually didn't actually make the bet, which would actually recovered me a little bit of money. But it was literally that week. That's all I'm going to say.
And I think with that,
yeah, that's the end of this show.
We will bid you all adieu, but join us next Wednesday. It'll be November 15th. And
college basketball preview. 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for another installment of Southern Nevada Sports News coming to you from WWDBTV.com. And just real quick, right now, the young ball player sitting in Hong Kong or wherever he is in China in the joint right now or under house arrest. Right now, he still is currently leading the NCAA in steals. You heard it here first. Bye-bye, folks. Have a great week. God bless.